What are the other options? Are there any other options?
It's been tough. Look, I wanted to bring up players like Ivan Zapata, 33 years old, done it in Serie A, but we're going to go a little bit more realistic. I've looked at contracts here because I think that's quite important. Arsenal don't want to spend too much money if they're going to go and get someone like a Benjamin Sesko. So Vlahovic has got, you know, a year and a half left on his deal, similar with Lookman, and Jonathan David's contract expires in the summer. So that's the logic. We're looking at players that Arsenal could get right now. And if we're going to start with Vlahovic, he's a player that obviously came with great promise to Juventus. He's been directly involved in a goal every 142 minutes at Fiorentina. That's dropped off a bit in terms of 142 now versus 124, at Fiorentina. But I think he's a player that's only 24 years old. Remember Diego Costa, the player that carried Chelsea, Champions League finals, brilliant Atletico Madrid. It took him a while to get going in European football. Didn't play in Champions League till he was 25. Then went on a rampage, scored 36 goals in 52 games. Don't write him off yet. And if Arsenal could get him at a cut fee in January, maybe that's a move that they could do to really boost the squad.
We've been working on these transfer shows for how many years? how many times have we talked about Dusan Vlahovic and links to Arsenal?
Yeah, most windows.
Yeah, it's just what it feels like, doesn't it?
He's obviously been quite heavily looked at by Arsenal, but also other Premier League sides as well. And maybe the feeling is that he doesn't quite fit into what Thiago Motta's trying to do at Juventus, so maybe that would mean that he is available. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it for
Feels like it. What about the other options then?
I think looking at Lookman's a player that I spoke at the start of the window. Again, contract expires in 18 months. He's a hero at Atalanta. The Europa League final hat-trick was brilliant. But looking at our sample of players here, 29 goals in the last 12 months for club and country, 10 assists. When I look at Lookman, he's a player that can play in so many different roles and positions, and that's why I think for Arsenal it could work out, because he could start playing as a 9, then if Arsenal do get Benjamin Sesko, could be moved wide, could be moved into attacking midfield. There's a lot of variability in his positioning. And in terms of players, obviously, players get written off, Sam, right? You know, Mohamed Salah was at Chelsea, was a flop, went away to Serie A, played for Fiorentina, Roma, one of the best players in Premier League history.
I think Lookman, I'm surprised he's actually not there. We've not heard a lot more noise about him being linked with Arsenal, especially the fact that, you know, the left-hand side, Martinelli is doing decent this season. You know, he's got a few goals, but in terms of competition, Trossard's got a few goals, but on the right-hand side, like you said, he can play across the front three, and he would be the perfect player. Whether Atalanta let him go is highly unlikely, because he is their star man. He's African player of the year as well, but he's got the X factor that you need from a player. And you see it with Arsenal. Sometimes they struggle to create chances when teams have got the low blocks, and they're good at, you know, creating chances at some points, but you need that one player. Saka's normally that person. If they had Lookman on the other side, it would be great for them.
Yeah. He's explosive in that sense, and again, the Europa League finals are great way to look at it. His 3 goals were brilliant, but all creating a little moment for himself, putting the ball in the back of the net. And just in terms of his numbers, 0.99 goal assists per 90 for Atalanta. It's basically directly involved in a goal every single game. That would be massive for Arsenal.
It feels like just all the talk around Arsenal, well, it's kind of around Arsenal at the moment, and their desperate need to sign a striker. You were saying this morning, Good Morning Transfers, maybe it's sort of not as bad as it seems. And I watched Arsenal last night, where a couple of their goal scorers, like Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, if they can get goals from midfield as well, is it as bad as everybody thinks it is?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I think in January, like you said, it's going to be difficult to get the transfers that they really want to get. It's mainly looking like the summer, but I'll be saying Arteta, he's wanting more from the squad. He's always praising them for the chances that they create. You know, Havertz has got 14 goals this season. You know, the same amount of goals that he had last year with 21 less appearances. You know, Martinelli's got the same amount of goals that he had last year in the league as well. So if the other players are contributing, you know, Declan Rice got some goals and assists, and I think they'll be fine. They're not in the worst position, but I can understand them wanting that striker that's got that killer instinct to, you know, take more of the chances.
Yeah, and finally, Jonathan David, he's a player that's been around for quite a long time now. And when you look at him and how he's evolved recently in Liga, in the 5 seasons he's been in Liga, only Kylian Mbappe scored more goals than him. He's averaging a goal every other game. He can play everywhere as well. And that's kind of the profile of player. If Arsenal move in January, they need a forward that can play across the line, that's going to make things happen in the final third, that's going to provide real quality in those areas, which means they can go and buy a striker in the summer. More goals in the squad, a Leandro Trossard type impact is what Arsenal need to do.
I just think, you know,
a message there for Josh Kroenke, by the way.
Are Arsenal fans going to be happy if they sign another player that can fill in a bit up front, play wide, but mostly a wide player or a 10? They need to go out and get the guy. They need to go out and get the number 9. And in January, if you spend money in January, that's taking budget from the summer. You're always considering the next move. And if you're spending on another forward player that can play across the front line but isn't going to be the guy, that's an issue.
It depends on how close they think they are to the title and the Champions League. You know, they're still in the Champions League, they're still in the title race. Will that player, you know, push them over the edge? We talk about Aubameyang when he came in 2018. He came in at 13 appearances, 10 goals. That's the type of impact that they want. But he was 56 million at that point. If they signed that type of striker now, it'd be double the amount. So it's going to be difficult. But like I said, I feel like they've got goals in their side. It's just more about getting them out of it.
Yeah, it's got to be the right signing. I think that's key, isn't it?